Phone vibrated once on the counter while she was pouring coffee, and I glanced down without meaning to. Just reflex, just the habit of 10 years of shared mornings. But this time the screen lit with a name I'd never heard her say out loud. Lexi Bear Teddy Bear Red Heart. A contact doesn't get a pet name and 2 emojis unless someone has stroked every letter into the keyboard like a secret. My stomach dropped so fast I felt it in my knees. Rachel saw me see it. The pot wavered in her hand, coffee sloshing onto the granite she'd bleached the night before. She didn't look at the splash. She looked at me, eyes wide, mouth already shaping the word don't. It's not what you think, she said, ripping a towel, kneeling to wipe. The same words she'd used when the credit card bill showed a hotel in Ventura. Same tone she'd used when I found the second phone in her glove box last spring. Work line, she'd claimed. Didn't want to bother the kids with after-hours calls that I hadn't asked about the hotel. I'd wanted to believe her more than I wanted to fight. But Lexi Bear landed different. Intimate, juvenile. A nickname you save for someone you still want to impress. She stood, towel balled in her fist. It's just Lexi from accounting. We all call her that. She's a kid, 24, total sweetheart. I nodded because the kids would bounce in any second asking for waffles, because Ruby's bus came at 7:18, because if I opened my mouth I wasn't sure what species of sound would crawl out. She turned to the fridge, shoulders high, humming something tuneless. I stared at the phone until the screen went black, my reflection staring back, ordinary man, slightly graying, clutching a mug that read World's Okayest Dad. When the toast popped, she flinched. I took that as confirmation the lie was still warm, that we didn't speak of it again that morning. She kissed my cheek at the door, lipstick perfect, scent of the citrus shampoo I'd bought in bulk since college. I watched her back out, tires crunching frost, and told myself maybe accounting departments had bears now, maybe emojis were just how millennials breathed. But the words total sweetheart kept scraping the inside of my skull. I teach drafting at the community college. Tuesdays are labs, students tracing specs while earbuds cage them from the world. Usually I drift, offer pointers, but today I stood at the window counting minutes until break, so I could search a name I didn't want to know. When the bell finally rang, I locked myself in the supply closet, heart hammering like I was the student cheating. LinkedIn told me Alexandra Romero existed. UCLA 2021, Marketing Analytics, Hastings and Klein. Her photo was bright-eyed, half-smile, the kind of face that assumed the world would meet her halfway. I closed the app, nauseated by how ordinary she looked. How much like the girls who once filled the bleachers when Rachel and I played co-ed softball, Rachel sliding into bases like she had nothing to lose. The rest of the day I replayed every recent glitch in our marriage. Her new night cream, the sudden password on the iPad, humming in the shower, the way she'd stopped texting the second I entered a room. Individually they were nothing, stacked they became architecture, an entire hidden wing I'd walked past blindfolded. That evening she was late. Text said working late. Big pitch. I cooked chicken and broccoli, helped Ruby with spelling, put Max down twice because his asthma cough was flaring. 8:30, the key finally scraped the lock. She looked radiant, cheeks flushed, eyes glittering. She kissed the kids, ruffled my hair, called me babe in the same breath she used to ask if I'd fed the dog. I wanted to grab her wrists, demand the unfiltered timeline, but the kids were sticky with teriyaki and the house smelled of normal, so I swallowed the questions like broken glass. After baths, while she read Harry Potter voices downstairs, I opened her laptop, password unchanged, still our anniversary. The desktop was neat, client decks, family budgets, a folder labeled Lexi Q4. My pulse pounded as I double-clicked. Inside, spreadsheets, campaign metrics, nothing personal. Relief washed through me so fierce my knees weakened. Then I saw the Photos tab. 32 pictures, last modified yesterday. I clicked. First image. Lexi in our kitchen, holding Ruby's guinea pig, laughing. Second, Lexi and Rachel at a winery, heads tilted together, sunlight catching both their hair. Third, selfie, same kitchen, Rachel's face closer to the lens than she'd ever allowed mine, eyes soft with alcohol and something hungrier. My stomach turned inside out. Footsteps on the stairs. I closed the lid, slipped into the hallway. She reached the top, smile faltering when she saw my expression. You okay? I nodded, lied, said grading had worn me out. She brushed past to the bathroom, humming again, and I stood there feeling the corridor tilt. Every picture frame crooked. I in bed she curled into me, thigh over mine, whispered I love you into my neck like she was tucking a bookmark into a chapter she might need to reread. I stayed rigid, counting heartbeats, wondering how long you can hold someone who's already slipping through your arms like wet soap. Next day I left class early, drove to Hastings and Klein, parked across the street. At 5:15 she emerged with Lexi beside her. They walked close, not touching, but the air between them shimmered like pavement in July. I followed on foot, anonymous in the crowd. They ducked into a wine bar we'd once marked for our anniversary. I stood outside the window, breath fogging glass, watching her lean in to catch a story, hand on Lexi's forearm exactly the way she used to steady me when I rambled that I wanted to barge in, to hurl the truth across their table like a grenade. But my feet were cement. I texted her. "How's the pitch prep going?" She glanced at her phone, typed one-handed, killing it. "Be home by 9. Love you bigger." She slipped the phone back, never breaking eye contact with Lexi, and I felt the final bolt slide home. I drove home, made sandwiches, helped with homework, smile stapled to my face. At 8:50 she breezed in, cheeks pink, carrying a bag of pastries for tomorrow's breakfast. She kissed me, smelled of Pinot and borrowed perfume. I tasted the lie on her tongue and pretended it was sweetness. That night I waited until her breathing steadied, then opened her phone. Thumb on home, same print still worked. Messages to Lexi were set to delete after 30 minutes, but the last one hadn't vanished yet. I hate sneaking around. I want to wake up with you, and not pretend the world ends at sunrise. My heart cracked so loud I thought it would wake her. I screenshot, mailed it to myself, deleted the sent mail, replaced the phone. Then I sat in the living room in the dark, replaying the words "the world ends at sunrise" until they lost meaning and became only sound, like a siren receding that I must have dozed. Gray light filtered through blinds, and her alarm buzzed. She padded past, paused behind the couch. "You're up early," she murmured, voice syrupy with feigned innocence. I studied her, sleep-tousled, mascara faint on lower lids, the girl who once cried because ducks mated for life and humans sometimes didn't. I wanted to shake her, to beg, to rewind, but the picture on my phone, her hand on Lexi's forearm, glowed between us like a force field. "I have office hours," I said. She kissed my forehead, said "love you bigger," and I tasted grapes and guilt. When the door closed, I opened the photos again, scrolled to the winery shot, zoomed on her reflection in Lexi's sunglasses. Unbridled joy I hadn't seen in our house for months. I saved it to a folder labeled evidence, a word that made me gag, then drove to the ocean, parked on the bluff where we'd once written vows in the sand, and screamed until my throat bled. The next week I became a detective of my own life. Keylogger on her laptop, voice-activated recorder under the passenger seat, second phone synced to her cloud. Each discovery carved another chunk, yet I couldn't stop digging, as if proof might pile high enough to build a wall between me and the pain. I heard calls where she told Lexi our house felt like a museum of someone else's achievements, how she needed space to breathe new air. I listened while driving Ruby to ballet, smile fixed in the rearview, heart-shredding point. One night she came home crying. Lexi, she said, was transferring to Chicago, corporate decision, nothing to do with them. She crawled into my lap, arms around my neck, soaking my shirt with tears that smelled of another woman's shampoo. I stroked her hair, murmured "it'll be okay," and hated myself for comforting the weapon that had wounded me. The following Saturday she left for one last goodbye drink. I followed, watched them from the parking deck, saw them kiss inside her car, soft, desperate, a private language. I filmed 15 seconds, then drove home, packed a bag for me and the kids, wrote a note. "When you get back we won't be here. I've seen everything. Don't call until you're ready to tell the whole truth." I left it on the counter beside the pastries she'd bought to soften betrayal that I checked us into a residence inn. Let the kids think it was an adventure, microwaved popcorn, smiled until my face cracked. At 2:04 a.m. my phone rang. Her name, 20 missed calls. I answered. She was sobbing, driving, voice raw. "I'm coming to you. I'll tell you everything. I don't want to lose us." I stared at the ceiling tile, counting holes. "You already lost us," I said, surprising myself with the calm. "But if you want to try finding what's left, meet me at the bluff at sunrise." No lies this time. She arrived before dawn, headlights off, hair wind-whipped. We stood feet from where we'd once written vows. The ocean breathed in and out, impartial. I handed her the printed screenshots, sunrise texts, hotel selfie, vineyard grin. She took them with shaking hands, tears dripping onto paper. "I thought I could compartmentalize," she began, voice small. "It started as friendship, then adrenaline. You were buried in work, kids, and I felt like furniture. Lexi saw me, really saw me, and I got greedy. She looked up, eyes pleading. I love you. I stopped it last week before Chicago. I couldn't keep erasing myself. I wanted to believe the final part, but erasure leaves smudges you can't buff out. I told her I needed time, maybe months, maybe more, that the kids and I would stay away while she figured what life she actually wanted. She nodded, wiping tears with the sleeve of the sweater I gave her last Christmas. Sun cracked the horizon, molten orange spilling over waves. We watched without touching, silence thick with memories and might-have-beens. When the disk lifted free of the water, she whispered, I'm sorry I broke the sunrise. I didn't reply. I was busy pocketing the seed of tomorrow, unsure if it would ever sprout, but knowing I couldn't force it by pretending the soil was still fertile. She left first. I stayed, feeling the first beam warm my cheek, equal parts promise and interrogation. Somewhere behind gulls wheeled, kids woke in strange beds, and a woman drove home to an empty house learning that lights left on can still guide you back to a place that no longer exists. I took a breath, then another, and started the long walk to whatever story came after the lie.